Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I'm joined by Cauveé. Cauveé is a strategist-centered fulfillment coach known as the Inspiration Engineer, helping others reach their full potential and purpose. Cauveé focuses on building undeniably unique, legacy-driven brands that are audience-centered, relatable, connectable, and one-of-a-kind personalized edutainment brands. Welcome, Cauveé.
What's going on, brother? Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course. So, Cauveé, let's start with a little bit about what an inspiration engineer is.
Yeah, I get that all the time. Society says, the world says, do your one thing, like focus on your one thing. And that's great, right? Like there's truth in that when you have one thing that you do and one thing that your expertise is around. But there's another, counter philosophy by Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar that says the more skills you have, the more valuable you are to the marketplace. So what I found for me at that time, I was a poet, I was an event organizer, I was a musician, I was a songwriter, rapper, singer, marketer, and sales guy. Like I've kept changing my message to who I was talking to. And I just hated that. Like it just felt inauthentic to me. And so I was like, I need a title. I need something that when I tell people, what I do or what I'm about, like there's a story behind it, there's some power behind it, and it just feels authentic to me. And so I came up with 10 different titles and gave them to my community. And I was like, I need y'all's help. Like this is the problem I'm dealing with. And I need you guys to tell me, how you see me. And so my community voted on Inspiration Engineer, and the Inspiration Engineer was born. So, to answer that question in full, it's a hybrid between a coach, like a life coach, that's where the strategy piece, fits in, an entertainer, which is the music background, and being like an education guy. So those three pieces together make the Inspiration Engineer the Inspiration Engineer.
Nice. So who are your typical clients then? Like, it seems like an inspiration engineer does a whole bunch of stuff, which is awesome. Do you typically, cater to like students? Do you do business people? Who do you kind of cater to?
That's a great question. So I think that first off, I'm going to answer it for me, and then I'm going to answer it for somebody just getting started on their journey and so on and so forth. So if I'm actually going to do those backwards. If you're just getting started on your journey, you want to niche down, right? You want to focus in on and laser focus on who you're going to serve. This is the service you offer, build out systems for that and go, right? Like that's what you want to do. Once you've got a lot more experience on your belt, as you had mentioned offline, you talked about Toastmasters. So coming from, working in hospitality space when I was a server back in the day, being 16 years old, to working in education, to working with higher clients where we sold like technology, multi-million-dollar, software, to then working with musicians, I can service a lot of people. So now what I specifically focus on is people that want to build personal brands like the Will Smiths, the Mel Robbins, the Brene Browns, people that want to build these very unique personal brand oriented or personal brand centered services. Those are the people that I work with primarily. I still do a little consulting on the side for sales, marketing, funnels, things of that nature. But that's what I really like working with, is people that got a purpose, they've got a mission, and they want to lead with their talents and their business around their brand.
Nice. So kind of leaning into that, like how, for someone who's just getting started, how would they go about building a personal brand or even discovering kind of what their brand might even be?
Yeah. So the first thing you'd want to figure out is, do you have something that you love, right? And when I say something that you love, how you know if you love it is the time just flies by, right? Like when I'm in the studio and I'm recording, I lose all track of time. I'm like, where did the time go? Like, I can't believe like I've been in here for like 5-6 hours and it feels like I've been in here for 30 minutes. We call that a flow state. So that's number one, is have you found your flow state, whatever the service that you offer, right? Mm-hmm. If you have, then you need what I call a testimonial stack. So you need people to validate what you do, that it's a great service. Now, they also call this an MVP, not most valuable player for all my sports fans. It's really minimum viable product. So you really want at least 1,000 different people to say, like, this is a quality service, whatever it is that you offer. And then you want to refine that. So if you're just getting started, the first thing I would say is find your love. Second thing I would say is start building out the testimonials. And the third thing I would say is to start refining that service so that you can scale it, right? The last piece of that I usually will get, well, Cauveé, I don't have any customers right now. So, how do I go get customers if I don't have any customers, right? So I would tell somebody, there's not too many people that are going to turn down volunteer work, right? There's not too many people that are going to say, I don't want free labor. I mean, that's just not likely. So you can always offer what you do at either a discount or offer it for free so that you can start building up those testimonials. And then once you have that, you just continue to leverage credentials upon credentials, and it becomes a game of leverage from there.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I know, like, for me, when I started my coaching business and I started with my online courses, I gave away a ton of free coaching sessions. I gave my course away for free to probably 1,000 people, just to get those reviews coming in, because that's how you build that credibility with people, right? Because what's the first thing people do when they go look for something new? They look at the reviews, they look at the testimonials. So I think that's a really, really important fact to do. And, you kind of got to push that ego out of the way and say, you know what, I might be worth $10,000 an hour, but maybe if I'm just getting started, I should really just give my stuff away for free a little bit to build up that, those testimonials, like you were saying, which is awesome.
The other thing I want everybody to know is that the art of leverage, which is something that I teach, it never ends. It never ends. So like when Gary Vee goes to go buy the Jets, right? Everybody knows he wants to buy the Jets. Gary Vee doesn't have any running a team experience. So he's still going to have to leverage some things in order to get that to go through. And it's no different than like you and I, that you were telling me this is a newer podcast for you. So even though you've got all this wealth of coaching clients and you've got all this experience of students that you work with and all these success stories, the podcast now is something that you've got to start from ground zero, get those reviews, and then build it again. So it's a never ending process of building leverage and building social proof and assets that you can, that you can leverage that say your expertise and how quality you are.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So what would you say if someone is just getting started? They say, Cauveé, I really want to be great in sales. What kind of advice would you say to, okay, this is how you can get into mastering something? What advice would you give to that person?
Two things. So number one, you need mentors around you, right? So you need to go find somebody that is doing exactly what you want to do. I always talk about, you don't go to a person with a big old gut belly and say, hey, how do you get a 6-pack of abs? So you just don't do that. So go find the person that has made the amount of money that you want to make, or, that has done what you're looking to do, and then go learn from them. Now, when you go and approach them, you're going to need to come and be of value. A lot of people that are successful, they get approached by everybody, right? Everybody wants to work with them. So you need to figure out an angle as to how you're going to position yourself as a valuable asset in their lives in order for there to be a mutual exchange. Now, if you're at a corporation, in America anyway, the way it works is, usually corporations have those types of mentors already set up, people that are leading in sales, people that are, topping the boards. And what I would do when it was me, I would take these people out to lunch. Like I want to spend, and which is number two, you want to spend as much time incubating or learning or being in an ecosystem around the success, because it's going to feed. You're going to hear how they say things. You're going to hear their approach. You're going to hear the closing techniques, the questions they ask, so on and so forth. And you need to absorb what they're doing, right? Pick it apart and then make it work for you. Use your personality, use, what makes you, but learn from them the systems of success. And that really applies to anything you want to do in life. Get a mentor, surround yourself with a circle of influential people that are crushing it in the space that you want to be in.
Yeah. And I think that's a super important point. I know when I just started out with networking, like you always hear the quote, like your network equals your net worth.
Facts.
So, if you're hanging out with people who are living in poverty, chances are they're not the ones who are thinking, how can I make $1 million?
Correct.
Or 10 million or, 500 million. If you want to get to that level, you have to hang around those people who think like that. And that's going to change the way you think about approaching money, about approaching business, which is one of the reasons why I love doing this podcast, because I meet people who are inspired. I meet people who are going after that next level of success. And, Cauveé, you're one of those people, which is why I'm super happy to be interviewing you right now.
Appreciate it. And if you guys don't have the physical mentors, let's say you're in real estate, or maybe you're in some type of space where it's not there's not an ecosystem there, you can always go with digital mentors as well. You can go
Yeah.
with people that, there's a lot of people that have sales courses and you want to be studious of the game, reading books,
Hmm.
I've read, I don't even know how many books now, a lot. My library is massive. But you want to have, that's the key is being studious of the great ones. And so if you're, they say success leaves clues. And if you're studying and you're being around and incubating around those people, then success, as they say, if you're around 5 people that are successful, you'll be the 6th. And that's usually how it works.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like a lot of my mentors are online mentors, like Tony Robbins, Stephen James, Bob Proctor, these people, they're not physically with me, but I learn from their material all the time. Just like YouTube has everything you could need, right? Like you
Absolutely.
can learn how to do anything on there, or even go to the library if you can. Like anything that you need is in books. It's there. Someone's done it. And it, like you said, it leaves clues.
I would say sales is, since we asked about sales specifically, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Just because I look at sales, I come from basketball world, right? And
Mm,
so sometimes you need a coach or you need somebody else's ear to talk
yeah.
about your tonality. Make sure that you're asking the right questions at the right time. Make sure that you're, getting enough people prospected in. So that would be one of the spaces where I would say may require a coach or a a second person to be
Yeah.
there to be around you to be able to help refine that. But there's still, like you said, there's a lot that you can learn online and people that you can
Yeah,
study.
totally agree with that too. Like you need someone to kind of bounce those ideas off and, even look at you from an objective standpoint and say, okay, well, when you're giving me the pitch, your arms are crossed. It doesn't come across as very, open-ended kind of thing, just as a little example there. So kind of moving on with that, like what would you say makes somebody an extraordinary leader in their space?
Wow, that's a great question. I think extraordinary leaders lead by example. Number one, they set the pace, right,
Hmm.
and then they do that, right. And I think that people, when they look at leadership traits, as far as quality communication, somebody that is willing to be a part of the team and not stand above the team, right? Somebody that's
Yeah.
willing to put in the extra effort and whether it be stay after hours or whatever needs to get done to get the result that we're looking for as a unit, someone that embodies that and that you can look at them and say, okay, that's definitely the person leading us. They have vision, they have direction, and they can guide us as a unit or as a collective with what we need to do to be successful. I think that is what the traits of a leader are.
Nice. So that just got me thinking about like some people who might be in the workplace, like I always believe like the CEO doesn't necessarily mean they're the leader, you know, because I feel like leadership can come from any person. If you're someone who's on the front line, for example, and you motivate your team to kind of get moving, then definitely, like by definition, you're kind of like a leader. So how would you say, like, to someone who's in a workplace where maybe the CEO or the boss isn't necessarily that kind of leader, but the people need someone to look up to, how would you specify who should be your leader?
So you should never look at leadership by titles, right? Titles doesn't necessarily make a great leader.
Hmm.
I think leadership comes by qualities. And as you were just saying, you can have the qualities of a leader and be leading. One thing I think that a leader does, he or she, they don't focus on the external fulfillment of everybody else telling you you're a leader. You don't need
Hmm.
anybody else to validate you as a leader. You say, these are the things that I look in or I aspire to be, or these are things that I believe in that makes a quality leader. And you live by that becomes who you are to your core. And you take, do everything extra and go above and beyond. And as they say, leave the path and let everybody else follow you. That's what you focus on as a leader. You don't focus on, well, I want the title so that I can quote
Yeah.
unquote be a leader. So, I will say, when you're working in a workplace, sometimes I understand there's hierarchy there. Sometimes there's politics there, and I get it. I understand that. However, that should not deter you from, your communication abilities. That doesn't deter you from putting in, 120% work ethic. That doesn't deter you in helping to guide the team, helping somebody out when they need help, even though it may or may not be your role to help them. Those types of things have nothing to do with your performance. And when it comes to leadership, ultimately it comes down to the ability to perform and get everybody else to perform. So it comes down to the result. And are you the person that can drive the results, or are you the person that is just waiting for somebody else to do it?
Yeah, love that answer, man. So how would you inspire your team members?
Well, the way that I'm not a person that is big on inspiring my team members, because if I got to inspire you, I probably don't got the right guy or girl, right? Like I shouldn't have to inspire you to be here. I shouldn't have to inspire you to do a good job. What I do is I look for certain qualities and characteristics in my team, and I hire to, I have a different way of going about it. So there's a really great book called From Good to Great. And what it ultimately talks about, spoiler alert, is putting the right people in the right seat. And so the right people is really brain mechanics. If you've got the right mechanics of the way that your brain functions, I can teach you to do anything, right? Anybody can learn any skill. It's really, there's an extra, there's other things, other traits that I look for in people for them to be a part of my team. So I don't have to necessarily inspire my team. I think the only time when I have to really inspire them or inspire us is when things like COVID happen and everybody's kind of down, and now we're all going through something right now. It takes somebody to step up and kind of comfort the team and say, hey, everything's going to be all right. We're going to get forward. I would say move forward. I would say those are the times when I would have to inspire them. But if you have to inspire your team, you may want to look at getting a new team.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Now, one thing I know that kind of runs a little bit rampant in some companies is, that kind of negative atmosphere. So say you're someone who's like really positive, like yourself, and someone's in a negative work environment and they're trying to be positive, but everyone's kind of bringing them down. How would you say that person, can go about changing the environment there?
That's tough and it's tricky because I think it depends on, when you're talking about a workplace, you're talking about the culture that's in place. So let's first off, let's analyze the situation. Is the person that's negative or toxic, is that a one-off, or is that their regular 90-day sprint that they're always in this toxic mindset, right? Like, I mean, we need to first off analyze, is it more of a one-off situation or is this recurring? If it's recurring, and let's say you're at you just got hired, for example, you're not going to have much pull, right? You're not going to have much weight. Your word isn't going to carry as much. So if that were me in that situation, I'm going to be the living example of what I think we want to develop here at the culture, right? I joined the company because I believe in either the product or the service. And now I'm seeing that there's culture issues. So if I'm seeing that, then I'm going to try to be and lead, again, leading by example. I'm going to be what I think we want to see in the culture. If you're higher up, right, now we're talking about maybe you're a manager, or maybe you're close to being hired into a management role. These types of things, you might have a little bit more pull, or a little bit more, people might look up to you already. So, this might be the time where we can kind of sit everybody down, maybe go out for lunch or just have some kind of team bonding session and figure out what's going on with everybody. Why is the culture so toxic? Why is it so negative? And try to address it in that way, leading by example, and see if you can pick some people up along the way. If you're in management, see, it's always different depending on where you're at. If you're in management, then, I'm big on one-on-ones, and I'm big on, sitting people down in a private environment and figuring out what's going on, right? Again, going back to analyzing the situation. Every situation is different. It's a case-by-case scenario because, again, we got to look at performance. We got to look at their qualities on the team. We got to look at all these different dynamics and variables. And again, there could be something really, personally conflicting going on at home. So, I mean, you really got to look at every little piece differently. But at the end of the day, we've got a job to do. We've got a culture to create. We've got a atmosphere we want to work in. And if somebody is not fitting that culture dynamic, then we need to make sure that they're aware, hey, you're the toxic guy or gal on the team, you got to pick it up. And then, if they're willing to make change, we track progress. And if they're not willing to make change, then unfortunately we need to let those people go and bring in new energy and, as I say, new blood to get the culture to really function the way you want it to.
Nice. So I kind of want to shift gears a little bit here and learn a little bit more about you. So our audience can kind of learn a little bit more about you and how you kind of got to be where you are right now. So, what brings you like the most joy and fulfillment in your life?
Sure. So, I guess we'll have to back up a little bit. I'll tell a little bit about my story so that everybody can really,
Yeah.
kind of get it and understand. The ultimate answer to the question is performance and coaching. Changing other people's lives brings me a ton of fulfillment and joy. Then the question then becomes, okay, well, how did you find that out? Right.
Hmm.
So when I was like 9 years old, I was writing poetry when I was 5. When I was like 9, I wrote this poem for my brother's graduation or some type of family function, and my aunt started crying.
Wow.
And that's what I said. Wow. Like, I'm 9 years old. Like, dang. Like, okay. I mean, for you can really move, like they say, words are powerful. Like, you can move somebody with words. So it was from there. I was like, okay, moving forward, my dad, I had one of those fathers that would tell me things, I call it hero speeches. He would always be like, son, you can do whatever you want to do, be what you want to be. Anything in life you think in, your heart you can achieve. And so I was like, dad, like I figured it out around age 11. I was like, I'm going to be a musician. And my dad was like, you can't do that. Like, you can do anything else, just don't do that. And I'm like, what? So, I talk about, he gave me the gift of ferocity. So that really gave me this drive, like this thirst for success. And so when I was 18 years old, we sold out a concert of 1,209 people.
Nice.
And so to be locally, I don't say that to impress you or the audience. I say that to impress upon you. I was locally famous when I was 18 years old. And so to be, famous is kind of like, wow, it definitely affects the ego without a doubt. And so to have that kind of experience again, where you can kind of control this audience, you can set the tone and move people in that kind of way, was where that love for entertainment came in. And then I worked for a lot of corporations, always doing what I told our listeners today, figure out who the successful people are, studying them, reverse engineering them. And I've worked for over 33 companies, sad to say, but did a lot of job hopping. Had success, got my success without moving to the next thing. But one of the institutions that really changed my life was University of Phoenix. And I helped this student named Melissa Briscoe overcome major challenges to get her education. She was in the education programs, which is the programs that I taught. And so helping her to get her associate's degree and do everything that she had to go through in order to get it was one of the biggest life successes I've had, next to that concert at age 18. And at this time I'm 24, 25, right? So I'm much older, and I'm like, okay. And so then from there, I helped my first student break 6 figures in revenue.
Nice.
And I was off to the races. I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, as far as being an edutainer, putting out content that's inspirational, and it drives you, and it makes you dance, or makes you move, or makes you feel powerful, or makes you cry, whatever you're going through, the music can do that. And then to create coaching and programming, to work with people one-on-one, whether that's consulting or coaching, and helping people accomplish goals. That is what I'm here to do. So that's
nice.
Yeah. That's the answer.
Nice. So what I got kind of a little bit from your story is you went through a lot and you've helped a lot of people. You got that early on success. Now I'm sure you had some haters along the way, because pretty much anyone who gets some level of success has those haters, right? So how did you kind of deal with that, and how did you build that resiliency when someone maybe was telling you you shouldn't be doing that? Because I'm sure there's lots of listeners out here who have that one person, or maybe a couple people, who say, don't go after it, I don't know if you can do it. What would you say to those people?
I would say, first off, who are those people? Right? Like, if it's your parents hating on you, then first off, understand that the likelihood that they're hating on you is more than likely a fear of their own. It's not it's not them necessarily not believing in you. It's more so there's a fear, and they're trying to protect you in the way that they know how. So they want you to do something that they feel is more secure, more safe, or higher probability to success. Now, if it is also your parents, they usually provide you with shelter, and they provide you with money or food or something of the sort. So if you're going to live under their roof, if you're going to, still take nourishment from them, then it's kind of, challenging at that, to that end of it, because you're still relying on them. Fortunately for me, my parents didn't tell me I couldn't. They just didn't believe that I could. So that would be number one. Number two, I would say with that, if it was worth it, or if it's worth it to you, let's say you're, 18 years old or about to be 18, when you're about to go on your own, do you believe in it enough to leave that support system that you may have in order to pursue the dream? Those are very, that's a really powerful thought for you to, figure that out. How much do you believe in it? When it comes to the outside world, you're going to be loved by many. You're going to be hated by many. That's the way it works, right? When light shines, it attracts other light to it, other molecules of light, but it also shines in darkness. So you've got to be comfortable being in the darkness. You got to understand that trolls and people that are hating, again, are not necessarily hating on you. It's a mirror that they see within themselves. And whatever you're doing pulls that darkness out of them to approach you. And when they're attacking you, they're really helping themselves feel better. So, I mean, you're technically still helping somebody because it's helping them to exalt whatever's going on in their consciousness or in their heart. So you should never, I don't think, one thing my brother said to me, and I would tell anybody, he said, manage your highs and manage your lows. And that's, you don't want to bask in the glory and the success. Like, you don't want to bask in the failure and the darkness, the hate, and that's just people. It's just human nature. And so one thing I would tell you is to expect it. And second thing I would tell you is don't be emotionally attached to the results, good or bad.
Yeah. And I think that brings up a really good point too. And you kind of mentioned it a little bit, like having that strong enough reason why you're doing what you're doing. Like Napoleon Hill said it in his book, like desire is the strongest force. Like if you have a strong desire to go after what you want, and you want it more than anything, then, you have to burn your bridges, burn your ships behind you and just go after it. And, having that reason why is really important. So what kind of advice would you give to someone to maybe develop that desire? Someone who's maybe thinking of going in multiple directions, but isn't really 100% there yet.
Sure. Well, there's two different things that you're asking there. So somebody that hasn't figured it out as to what, because the latter half of that is like somebody that's still going to the buffet, figuring out what they like to eat, right? If you're at the buffet, you got to taste everything until you figure out, like, again, this is what I love and this is my flow state. So that's number one. If you're testing different things, that's okay. Try to experience as much as you can, as fast as you can, so that you can learn what it is you want to do and figure that out. When it comes to resiliency, and when it comes to strengthening that muscle to be more resilient, if you're in a place of comfort, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So it's the uncomfort. I know that sounds backwards, but it's not. It is when you're uncomfortable, that is when you grow the most.
Yeah.
So life is going to give you what life is going to give you, but there are some things that you can do to start being uncomfortable. I would tell people, take cold showers, freezing cold showers, because you're not going to like that. And that will start getting your nervous system prepared for doing things you don't like. Another one that is very challenging is fasting, where you don't eat for X amount of days. And your body is going to send you signals like, hey, it's time to eat. And you're like, nah, like, we're not eating today. And so doing things like that to, again, practice discomfort. I wouldn't tell people, to like beat yourself or go. I think there's a radical approach to that. That's what they used to do back in the day to prove their faith. But I'm just saying there are some different things that you can do to practice discomfort. But at the end of the day, you're not going to know, what you're able to do or capable of until you're put in a situation. But again, if you focus on that desire, you focus on that passion, and you let your purpose guide you, you continue to keep seeking no matter what, and you have a no matter what attitude, then you'll see what you're capable of really accomplishing and pushing through.
Yeah. Doing whatever it takes to get to that success. Like if that's what you want, you have to do whatever it takes to get there.
Yes.
You're going to have those down days, and, it happens to all of us. We have those days where maybe we weren't as productive as we should have been, but it's okay. As long as you go out there and you perform the next day, as long as you don't make slacking off a habit, you're going to get to that next level. Now, one question that I get a lot from people is, or not really a question, more of a statement, when I talk to them about going after their goals is, well, I'm too old to change up. What kind of advice would you give to those people?
Study the people that if you eat KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, then you know that man's launched Kentucky Fried Chicken when he was 65, right? 65 years old. So, that's not really an age. I would say. What is the alternative? What is the alternative? And what I mean by that is, if you continue, usually there is people settle or they do what they are accustomed to doing because that's comfortable. That's usually what that comes down to. And so I wish I had some if I can find them, I'll send them to you so you can share with the audience. But I have this image of this lady who's like, both of them are in their 70s. And one lady is like, she's hunched over and she's like almost like a hunchback because of her spine. And the other lady is like fit. She's got boxing gloves on and like, she's doing her thing. And so that tells you that it's never an age-based thing. It's a mindset-based thing. So Walmart, the gentleman that started Walmart either in his 60s or 50s, but he was another late bloomer. But there are a lot of people that are late bloomers, and you just may be a late bloomer, but I'd rather bloom late than not bloom at all. Yeah. And you've got a lot of people out there that never go after a dream. They never go after something that can bring them fulfillment because it was told it's not possible for them. So look at it from that angle as well, is that at least you have the awareness now that there's something else pulling on your heartstrings. And I'm going to tell you what the world won't tell you, which is go after that thing pulling on your heartstrings.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Henry Ford, I don't think he was in his 40s when he started the Ford Motor Company, if I remember correctly.
I think 47. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like there really is no set age, like you were saying, to start going after your dreams. So with that, Cauveé, what would you say your definition of success is?
I think success is really the ability to do what you want, when you want, how you want, and serve others doing what you love. Those are the things that I think make success. So do what you want, when you want, how you want, and serving others with the things that you love to do.
Amazing. And if people want to get in contact with you, maybe find out a little bit more about you that they didn't hear here, where can they find you?
You can always go to cauveé.com, CAUVEE.com, or you can reach out to me on whichever social media platform you're on. The only ones I'm not on and won't be on is TikTok and Snapchat, but everything else, or Pinterest, everything else, you can feel free to reach out to me on the platform of your choice.
Nice. And I will put links in the description below where you guys can access all that, either in the show notes, or if you're watching this on YouTube, they'll be down in the description below so you can get a hold of Cauveé. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on this interview. Really good points throughout the interview today. I think our listeners are going to get a lot of value from this. So thank you so much for taking the time, Cauveé.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate you for having me.